She looked at me, smiled sideways and said, "You don't seem like the type who complicates things." By that point, I'd been through enough women to not fall for basic games. I could read signals. I knew the difference between real interest and loneliness dressed up as something else. I lived light, had my options, didn't get attached, didn't build expectations. If it was good, I stayed. If it wasn't, I simply moved on. It was a regular Friday. Packed bar, loud music, low light. Nothing special. I hadn't even planned on going out, but I ended up there. And that's where I saw her. Camila, 32. She wasn't the most striking woman in the place, but she didn't go unnoticed either. Hair pinned up in that half-loose way, like it had been done without much thought. Simple dress, but it fit well. Nothing excessive. The kind of woman who doesn't need to try to get attention, but once you notice her, it's already too late. She was leaning against the bar, scrolling through her phone, but it wasn't casual scrolling. It was fast, purposeful, like she was handling something, not killing time. That caught my attention before anything else did. I leaned against the bar next to her, ordered a drink, didn't look directly at her, gave her space. She was the one who opened. "Are you always this quiet or just tonight?" I looked over, gave a half smile. "Depends on who's next to me." She held eye contact, didn't look away. She liked that. The conversation flowed easily. Direct, no stupid games. She wasn't trying to impress, but she wasn't shrinking herself either. She knew what to say, knew how to push. She had presence. But there was something that didn't add up. When I asked anything personal, she'd answer, but cut it short, wouldn't go deeper, changed the subject smoothly, like she'd been trained to do it. At one point, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it quickly, flipped it face down immediately, kept talking to me like nothing had happened. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I let it go. In my head, it was simple. Everyone's got something going on. An unresolved situation, someone being persistent. Nothing I was interested in sorting out. I wasn't there to investigate anyone. I was there to live the moment. And she made it easy. She laughed freely, touched my arm while she talked, moved closer without me having to pull her in. No resistance. None of that breaking game most people play. It was moving too fast, but too good to question. In under an hour, we were already talking low, too close, like we'd known each other much longer. The bar started to feel irrelevant. Everyone else disappeared. There was a moment when she stopped and looked at me differently, stayed silent for about 2 seconds, like she was making a decision right then and there. Then she smiled. "You really don't complicate things, do you?" I answered without thinking too hard. "Only when it's worth it." She laughed softly, moved closer, and right then I already knew the night wasn't going to end at that bar. What I didn't know yet was that something much bigger was happening beyond that table. We left the bar without overthinking it. There was no back and forth about what came next. It just happened. She grabbed her bag, I paid the tab, and next thing I knew, we were on the sidewalk, side by side, closer than two people who'd met barely over an hour ago had any reason to be. "Do you live far?" I asked. "Not really. Quick ride." Short answer, direct, no details. I called the car. During the ride, she leaned back against the seat, looking out the window. Didn't push conversation, but didn't create distance either. Her leg pressed against mine the whole time. That wasn't accidental. Halfway through the ride, the phone buzzed again. She didn't even take it out of her pocket this time, just ignored it. I looked over from the side, said nothing. When the car stopped, she was the first one out, walked straight into the building without looking back, like she'd already decided everything. I just followed. The apartment was too organized, too clean. There was something about it that didn't fit improvisation. Pillows placed just right, the smell of a kept home, soft ambient light already on. It didn't feel like a place where someone lived alone without routine. But again, I let it go. She took off her heels in the middle of the living room, let her hair down, and walked toward me without rushing. Stopped close, looked straight at me. "Are you always this calm?" "Only when there's no reason not to be." She smiled, pressed her hand against my chest, moved it up slowly toward my neck. No hurry, no hesitation, no guard up, no test. None of that initial resistance that usually separates curiosity from genuine want. She wanted this. And she wasn't hiding it. We kissed right there, directly. No slow build. It started intense, like it was a continuation of something that hadn't started that night. She pulled, pressed close, came back, all at her pace but keeping me in it the whole time. Not passive, not dominant, just decided. But there were small breaks. Mid-kiss, she'd stop for a second, like something crossed her mind, look to the side, then come back like nothing happened. At one point she stepped back, picked up her phone, and walked it to the kitchen. Said nothing, just went. I stayed in the living room, listening to the silence. She came back in less than a minute. Sorry, quick thing. I just nodded, didn't ask, didn't want to know. Because deep down, I was already picking up that something was off. But I also knew that if I pulled on that thread, I might unravel everything. And in that moment, I didn't want to unravel anything. She came back different. More intense, like she'd made some internal decision, came straight at me, took my hand, led me to the bedroom without a word. No pause, no room to think, too fast, too easy. And that's almost always when something's wrong. But I went. Because when you've lived enough, you learn to recognize patterns, but you also learn to ignore them when it suits you. That night, I chose not to see. The bedroom door closed behind us, and that's when everything changed. The door closed, and the silence got heavier. No more bar noise, no more distractions, just me, her, and what was about to happen. She turned on a dim light in the room. It wasn't improvised. That was already set up before I ever arrived. We went back to kissing. More intense, more direct. No pauses. But in the middle of it, it happened. Her hand slid across her own finger and stopped, automatic. A small gesture, fast. But it didn't go unnoticed. I looked, and I saw a clear mark on her ring finger, the skin lighter there. Recent, not something old. This was from someone who takes a ring off every day. I grabbed her arm right then. You wear a ring? Not a question. She froze for a second, just 1 second, then let out a slow breath through her nose like she'd been expecting it. I'm married. Just like that. No drama. No panic. No guilt in her voice. Straight. The room went silent. I let go of her arm slowly, took a step back, looked at her for real for the first time since we'd walked in. This wasn't just attraction anymore. Now there was context. When were you planning on telling me? I said. She shrugged. Simple. When it became necessary. That landed differently. It wasn't desperate lying. It wasn't someone trying to hide things until the very end. It was calculation. It was choice. I ran a hand over my face, took 2 steps around the room, looked at the door, then back at her. She didn't seem nervous, didn't apologize, didn't try to justify herself with some sad story. She just stood there, looking at me, waiting, like she was saying, now you decide. Does he know you're here? I asked. She gave a half smile. He thinks I'm asleep. That was the real turning point. This wasn't about me. It never was. I wasn't special. I wasn't an exception. I was just the moment, an escape, a break in her routine. And the heaviest part was how comfortable she was with that. I stayed quiet for a few seconds, long enough to step out of impulse and see the full picture. But here's the part most people won't admit. I could have walked out, could have ended it right there. But I didn't leave. I stayed. Because in that moment, desire spoke louder than any clean principle. And she knew it. Moved toward me again slowly, no rush, no pressure. Put her hand back on my arm, and this time, I didn't pull away. The rest happened without words, without romanticizing it, without promises, just physical, just the moment. And when it was over, there was no awkward atmosphere. She got up, tucked her hair behind her ear, and walked to the bathroom like it was just another ordinary night. I got dressed in silence. Before I left, she only said, "Better this way." I didn't even respond. I just left, and it was on the way back that it all started to really sink in. On the way back, the silence in the car weighed more than anything that had happened before it. Because right then it became clear. This was never about me. She wasn't looking for connection. Not for deep emotional validation. She already had stability at home, routine, someone permanent. What was missing was stimulation, novelty, the feeling of risk, and I was exactly that. A guy outside her usual world. No ties, no demands, no immediate consequences, a clean escape, and most importantly, disposable. That changes everything. Because once you understand that, you stop romanticizing situations like this. There's no special chemistry. When someone already arrives with a built life and chooses to step out of it for a few hours, there's a pattern. She didn't do this only with me. I was just the available option that day, a momentary backup. And looking at myself honestly, I wasn't innocent either. I saw the signs. From the beginning. The way she cut off topics, the phone, the pace moving too fast. But I ignored it. Because it was convenient. Because it was easy. Because it felt good. And that's where most people fool themselves. It's not about lacking perception. It's about choice. When everything moves too fast, there's almost always something you haven't seen yet. And most of the time, you already saw it. You just chose to ignore it. Because it was easy, because it was convenient, because it fed your ego. A woman who already has a life built isn't choosing you. She's using you as a pause. And if you walk in without a filter, without reading the room, you become just another option inside her chaos. In the end, it's not about her being married. It's about you accepting any role just to not lose the moment.